This is Billy Reed for the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame with a member of the class of 2014, Lisa Harrison. Lisa, congratulations on your induction into the High School Basketball Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Billy. I'm very honored to be inducted.
I can honestly say I've done a number of these interviews, but you are the first person I've interviewed who was invited to pose nude for Playboy.
And I didn't do it. Do I get bonus points for that?
I'm sorry, I just had to bring that up right off the bat. But that is, in a sense, a compliment.
I guess
It's a very
so.
nice compliment.
Thank
But
you.
we're here to talk about your basketball career, and when you were at Southern High School as a senior, you won National Player of the Year honors. Of course, you were Miss Kentucky basketball. But I just wanted to ask you, did you grow up in Louisville? Your father, Kobe, I think, was a softball player for the late, great Kentucky Bourbons.
Yes, I am from Louisville, and yes, everyone knows my dad, Kobe. I grew up here in Louisville, went to a very small Christian private school up until high school, and that's kind of how I got my start with basketball. It was such a small school that you kind of played all the sports. There was
Okay.
maybe 20 kids in your entire class.
Mm-hmm.
So because the student body was so low, you just played softball, you played basketball, you ran track, you played volleyball. And that's really how I got started in all the sports.
Now, where did you live in the South End? Did you?
I'm from Okolona.
Okolona,
Yes.
okay, great.
Grew up in Okolona. Like I said, went to Evangel, which was right down the street.
Right,
So
right.
I have two brothers and a sister, and we all went there and walked to school. And it was very convenient, but it was very small.
Okay. Did you remember going to the Bourbons games? They were very popular with a lot of people.
I did vaguely remember being at the ballpark, and actually softball was my first sport, so definitely have that in my blood.
So, Southern, of course, that's where Phil Simms, great quarterback, went, and he was considerably ahead of you. But was the legend of Phil Simms, he was playing, I guess, had just ended his career maybe with the Giants, or was at the end of it. Was he still a big thing around Southern High School then?
Not that I recall back then. I don't think I even realized that until after I graduated and realized, you know, the football and his legacy at Southern. So, but definitely if you drive by there now, there's a big picture of him
Oh,
up
yeah.
front, so you can't help but know who Phil Simms is.
We need to get a big picture of you on the front too.
There's one in the gym, but not on the outside, so.
Now, when you came along, had Southern been very good in women's and girls basketball, or did you kind of start a winning tradition there?
I believe they made it to the finals the year before I went there with Pam
Okay.
Tanner was their star player.
Okay.
And we actually played Southern in the districts when I was at Evangel. When I was in the 8th grade, I was playing varsity. And they were in the locker room next to us, and they beat us, it was like 60-30.
Wow.
And I just remember hearing them in the locker room next to us, and they were making so much noise, and I was so scared and intimidated by Southern because they were probably the largest student body in the state.
Yeah.
And for me to end up transferring there the next year as a freshman, it was terrifying. I was an extremely shy child. And to go from that intimate setting at Evangel, where there's 20 kids in your class, to the largest student body, I was terrified.
Wow.
And I remember in the summertime, they had an open gym. And I remember going up to the gym and almost not going in.
Wow.
Because I was just so shy and backwards, and of course you would never know that on the court. I don't know what happens, but inside I'm a very competitive person, and if people like knew what I was actually thinking inside when I'm competing, it doesn't come out on the outside, which actually works to my benefit, or it did when I was playing. But my high school coach, Coach Brown, always tells the story and told me to tell it. My mom told me to tell it. My dad brought it up about when I was a freshman and was having some success and wanted to be interviewed after one of the games. And Coach Brown had to drag me out of the locker room because I was so shy. I did not, just like right now, I don't want to do the interview. So.
Not now, not after everything you've done. My goodness.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you first became aware that you were good at basketball?
You know, after all the success in high school and, Miss Basketball and Player of the Nation, and it never really hit me even till like after college of what actually I accomplished, which could have been a good thing, but it never really sunk in what really happened. I look back at my high school career and it was magical. It was, I had awesome teammates, I had very unselfish point guards. My coaches were amazing. I was very lucky, especially with Coach Brown, because being such a shy child, he kind of brought the aggressiveness out of me. And I guess he kind of spoke for me almost, because his personality is so dominating, and he's just does what he has to do, and I'm like the opposite. So it helped kind of bring my shyness out. So I think we were a great match together, and I definitely wouldn't have gone on to Tennessee and being under Pat Summin and learning the game of basketball from her. Just having the coaches that I did really, really helped me.
Some people look back at their high school years with a lot of happiness and pleasure. To other people, it was a very painful time in their lives. How would you characterize your high school years?
My high school years were my best years. Like I said, they were magical. I mean, winning the state championship, being Miss Kentucky basketball, being the number one player in the nation. Our team was ranked second in the nation at one point. I mean, it was just a fun time as a teenager and just exploring all of that. And it really was an amazing experience. And then obviously going to Tennessee and winning a championship and then playing professionally for 10 years, I still look at my high school days as my best years.
Wow. And obviously, you were a standout in your class in more ways than one, but was there any sense of jealousy as you got all this success, or did you ever sense any animosity, or was pretty much everybody behind you in your corner?
Like I said, I had two amazing point guards, Stephanie Jones and Michelle Barden, and they were so unselfish. And with that, I was very, very fortunate. It's difficult with girls, especially being teenagers, and there can be the cattiness and the jealousy. But it really, of course you're going to have it somewhat, but overall, it really wasn't there. And I think Coach Brown, too, is being able to control that and nip it in the bud if it did become an issue. But definitely during those teen years, and, there was a lot of attention thrown my way, and it really could have gotten out of control, but I was very, very fortunate, and I hope that my teammates enjoyed our success, just as much.
With Coach Brown, and then of course you did play for the immortal Pat Summitt at Tennessee, something I've always been kind of wondered about, and I don't mean this to be sexist in any way, but are coaches in the sense that a really good girls coach could transfer and become a really good boys coach, or is there to coach girls basketball? Is there any difference? I mean, like when C.M. Newton was looking to replace Eddie Sutton at Kentucky, of course he hired Rick Pitino, but Pat Summitt was on his list, which I thought was way ahead of his time. But could you have seen your coaches, flip-flopping and coaching the other sport?
I do remember that situation with Pat, and I think that she addressed it. I don't want to speak for her, but I remember reading it somewhere that it kind of would have been a slap in the face for the women's game, because everything she's done to promote, develop the women's game, and then to go over to the men's side would be kind of a slap in the face. So does she know the game of basketball? Could she coach the game of basketball on the men's side? Absolutely. But I think she's obviously invested so much time in the women's game, and to do that and say that the women's game isn't good enough, she doesn't need to do that.
But some women just feel that challenge. Danica Patrick, for example, in NASCAR, and some women jockeys that they really want to prove themselves that they're as good as the men. And I could see a coach wanting to do that.
Right.
You know.
Well, Bernadette Locke, she coached
Yes,
Latino in Kentucky.
Yes.
So I think she may have been one of the first females to coach on the men's side. But obviously you see men's coaches in the women's game much more,
Yes.
obviously. So, I mean, I think it can be done, but I think it's a fine line.
It's going to happen, I think,
Yeah.
someday. I really do. What do you remember? You won the state championship at Southern your senior year?
Junior.
Junior in '88.
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember about the championship game?
I have a terrible memory, I must
Oh,
say.
okay.
But, I don't really remember a lot. We beat Oldham County.
Okay.
My freshman year, we lost to Oldham County in the state tournament. So that was a little bit of revenge there, but I don't really remember a lot about the game, any of the games actually in the state tournament, but just kind of celebrating afterwards. I couldn't tell you points. I'm not big on stats and how many points I had and rebounds.
Yeah.
And
Do you remember the next day bringing the trophy back home?
I just said I have a bad memory.
You don't, good grief. You don't remember no fire trucks or anything?
Yes, we did have a parade. I do remember the parade in
Okay.
Okolona. Yes, I do.
Okay.
So.
When your senior year was completed and you were the Gatorade and USA Today and several different organizations named you the National Girls Player of the Year, I mean, the recruiters must have been all over the place. Certainly Kentucky's program already had been good. Western Kentucky had a great program, but nobody could really blame you for wanting to go to Tennessee to play for the great Pat Summit.
Right. And to be honest, I was really up in the air. I did know I wanted to go away from home, and at the time Western was the top team in the state. So, but I did know that I wanted to kind of go away and spread my wings. So it came down to Southern Cal and Tennessee, and I didn't know until after I went on my visits where I would be headed. So actually, after taking the visits, and I knew in my heart, after I left Tennessee, I actually told Pat, leaving the campus, that this is where I was going to come. And it's just something that you feel inside. It's just a calming feeling. You feel at home, even though the players sit you down at center court in Thompson Bowling Arena and they tell you this program is not for everyone. And they're straightforward, and they were right. But I just knew that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to have a chance to win a national championship, and definitely made the right choice. If I had to do it all over again, I would go back to Tennessee.
That's a great testimony
Exactly.
to the program and Coach Summit. I'm sure you've probably thought many times about what qualities she has. I mean, what really was there one thing that really set her apart from any other teacher or coach you've ever been around?
I would say the biggest thing about Pat, her best quality is teaching the game. She is a great teacher of the game of basketball. And obviously, you know, she's disciplined, she's a perfectionist, she's actually very funny off the court. On the court, it's strictly business, but, and I think playing for her helped me continue on for 10 years playing professionally, because I really learned the game of basketball. I think in high school you're just kind of playing off ability and talent, but being there for 4 years, I really understood the game of basketball. Defense, didn't really know how to play defense too well, but and if you don't play at Tennessee, then you don't play. So that's the biggest thing I would say for Pat, is her knowledge of the game.
Very few products of Kentucky high school basketball have played in the WNBA, which you did. You played professionally for 10 years. Was that an enjoyable experience for you by and large?
Well, let me tell you this, Billy. My high school basketball idol was Rex Chapman.
You wore number 3.
Yes, I did. Now, in high school, I wore 24. In college, I wore 21.
Okay.
So when I was drafted by Phoenix, and not only was the coach Cheryl Miller, which was a chance for me to play for one of the greatest players in basketball.
Yes.
Well, guess who was in Phoenix playing for the Suns?
Rex.
Rex Chapman. So I changed my number to 3 in honor of Rex. Has he given me like any love, acknowledgement for that? No. So, but it was thrilling for me to play on the same team, so to speak. He was with the Suns, I was with the Mercury, and to be there with my basketball hero and, you know, play in the same gym, and so that was really a neat experience for me.
Well, Rex was inducted into this Hall of Fame last year,
Right.
and if he comes back this year, which I think he will, you will have a chance to personally get on his case about that.
I've talked to him here and there, but never, I think I even told him that I changed my number to 3 because of him, and it's like crickets. Really, Rex? Come on, where's the love?
Very ungallant. We have to get on him about that. But it was overall a good, you know, I know you travel a lot, you got to see a lot of the country, a lot of the world. You've done so much. Is there anything that you didn't get to accomplish that you would like to have done?
Besides posing in Playboy?
Oh, well, never
okay.
mind.
Let's see. You know, I think about the Olympics and maybe have pursuing that, but
Mhm.
I've always had this love-hate relationship with basketball. I've never wanted to admit the importance and my love for the game. And actually volleyball is always been my favorite sport to play.
Mhm.
But even looking back, I started playing when I was in the 5th grade, and in the 6th grade, I didn't play. I still played, you know, the other sports, but I didn't play basketball because I didn't want to. So even back then, I had this, you know, love-hate situation, and even in the WNBA in the off season, I did go overseas and play like a lot of players do. I stayed and worked in the community. I did an internship at Nike in Portland. I never just totally immersed myself in basketball. So, you know, maybe looking back, you know, maybe going overseas or pursuing, you know, trying out for the Olympics. But, you know, I'm happy with everything. I've played much longer than I ever thought I would, with the WNBA and the ABL coming around where I was still at an age to play. I think I retired when I was 35. So I was very fortunate.
The love-hate aspect of it is interesting because it seems like with young players today, once you get on that fast track, if you're really a talented player, you almost have, they almost force you to do nothing but basketball. And frankly, I'm concerned. I think you're a healthy person because you had other interests,
Right.
other things you wanted to do. I think that if the only thing you think about is basketball, and that's all you do, somehow that makes you one-dimensional. And I think that's maybe an unfortunate thing with some of these young people today.
You know, that's what I hear with a lot of kids coming up now, and I don't understand it. I have a daughter, she's 5, and I want her to play all sports. I wanted her to experience it, I want her to see which one she likes. You know, I can't imagine just limiting her to just one thing. So hopefully it won't come to that, because I don't agree with it. But I think it does make you a better, well-rounded person when you can experience, you know, basketball is different than softball. The culture of it. Soccer is different than the culture of tennis. I mean, it's all different, and you're meeting different people, and so I just think there's more benefits than negatives, you know, playing different sports.
Lisa, is there anything that you'd like to say about your career, and especially your high school career? Any people that we haven't mentioned that you would like to thank on this recording?
I get emotional. I just would like to thank my teammates, definitely. There's so many of them. My high school coaches, actually, my coach in Evangel, Kim Roberts, who helped get me started with basketball. Definitely my parents, my mother, who shuffled me back and forth to all the sports that I played growing up, and my principal at Southern. He was very supportive for women's sports and treated us with equality, just like the boys. Jesus. And just being from Kentucky is such an honor, and everywhere I've played, I've always been very proud to be from Kentucky, whether I'm in Phoenix playing or in Tennessee. You know, even if I see players on the men's side or even the women's side that are playing pro that went to Kentucky or went to U of L, you know, I feel like I have just an unspoken bond with them because they're from Kentucky or have been in this environment here in the Bluegrass and understand what basketball means here in Kentucky. So I'm just proud to be a Kentuckian, and this is my home, and I love it. And I thank you for the induction.
Well, it's well deserved, and I'm looking forward to seeing you join the rest of them in that special club on July 12th of this year. Congratulations, Lisa.
Thank you, Billy.